Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a classic, incredibly melodramatic tale of romance, duty, and just absolute overwhelming desire straight from the ancient text of the Mahabharata. If you've ever felt the sudden, paralyzing strike of a crush, you are definitely going to appreciate the absolute extremes our protagonist goes to here. We're looking at a story where love isn't just a fleeting emotion, it's quite literally a force of nature that brings mighty warriors right to their knees.
Okay, let's dive into this right at the absolute peak of human desperation. Our king's plea here is literally a matter of life and death. He claims his life is actively ebbing away. He describes himself as being pierced incessantly with keen shafts, totally unable to catch even a single moment of rest. We are witnessing a level of passion that feels like an actual mortal wound.
Chapter 1. Smitten by Kama. The king falls. I mean, just look at the contrast described in our source text here. This man is a feller of hostile ranks. He's a great battle-hardened warrior king, a guy completely used to crushing his enemies and maintaining absolute control over his environment. And yet, the very moment this maiden disappears from his sight, he is entirely deprived of his senses and literally falls unconscious to the earth. He just drops like a stone. And the deep irony here? He's only awakened when the very object of his affection, this mysterious maiden with sweet smiles, reappears to intervene. So the maiden steps in to ground him with some much-needed perspective. Rise, rise, O chastiser of foes. She's gently but very firmly reminding him of his status. She calls him a tiger among kings and points out that, well, it really doesn't behoove a celebrated man of the world to completely lose his reason over a woman. She is effectively telling this mighty king to get a grip on himself.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the ancient text frames the king's affliction. He hasn't just developed a little crush. He has been actively attacked by Kama. You see, Kama isn't just a feeling. Kama is the irrepressible god of desire, armed with a deadly bow and arrows. The king explicitly states he feels like he's been bitten by a venomous viper. By defining his lust as a literal deity actively hunting him down, the king kind of removes his own agency. In his mind, he isn't weak. He's just outmatched by a god.
Once he's finally awake, the king leans heavily into the melodrama. Check out this frantic, poetic flattery he unleashes in a voice weak with emotion. He compares her voice to singing kinnaras, which are celestial musicians. He says her face is like a lotus petal or the moon, praising her faultless features and the splendor of lotus filaments. He begs her to extinguish the flaming desire burning within him with the water of her love. It is incredibly intense, flowery language coming from a man who claims he is literally unable to live without her.
Part 2, the Gandharva proposal, a desperate plead.
At this point, the king's desperation hits a total fever pitch. He begs for immediate union. He completely surrenders all of his royal pride, declaring himself her obedient slave and her adorer. He tells her his mind wanders, and upon beholding her, he just can't bear to cast his eyes on any other woman. For him, the one and only cure to those deadly arrows of Kama is for her to accept him right then and there.
To make this immediate union happen, the king proposes the Gandharva form of marriage. This is basically a type of marriage based purely on mutual attraction and consent between a man and a woman, without the need for families or any formal rituals. The king desperately tries to sell this idea to her, claiming that out of all forms of marriage, the Gandharva is absolutely the best. But really, we can clearly see he's just trying to bypass tradition and societal rules for a quick love marriage loophole to instantly cure his heartache.
Chapter 3. A Daughter's Duty. Dharma versus Karma. And this brilliantly illustrates the central conflict of our entire story. On one side, we've got the king's Kama, his burning desire driving this frantic need for instant gratification, pushing him to break all the rules with a Gandharva marriage. On the exact opposite side, we have the maiden's Dharma, her unwavering sense of duty. She exhibits this calm patience and a strict adherence to the patriarchal structures of her time. It perfectly captures that timeless human struggle between what we desperately want in the heat of the moment versus what our responsibilities actually dictate. They are operating on two completely different wavelengths here.
So she gives the king a sharp reality check. She tells him plainly, I am not the mistress of my own self. She points out the rigid cultural norm of their ancient world. Women in her position were simply never independent. She states firmly that if he truly harbors affection for her, he can't just demand she run away with him. He has to go demand her of her father. She absolutely refuses to circumvent the rules, no matter how much the king begs.
But here is the dramatic twist. She isn't rejecting him because she's not interested.
Listen to this. Thou also hast at first sight robbed me of my heart. She actually reciprocates his love. She recognizes him as a kind man to his dependents, a man born of a pure race. She asks rhetorically, what girl in the three worlds wouldn't want him for a husband? This makes her refusal purely a matter of duty. She wants him, for sure, but she will not break the rules to have him.
Part 4. The Sun God's Child. A Divine Reveal.
She finally introduces herself. Her name is Tapati. She is the younger sister of Savitri, and most importantly, she is the daughter of Aditya, the sun god, the illuminator of the universe. Just take a second to appreciate the sheer humor in this situation. Imagine this sudden, immense pressure on the king. He has just been aggressively hitting on, and begging for a quick elopement with, the literal daughter of the sun god. Yeah, no wonder she has such a strict father.
Let's move to this next point and see how this builds, because Tapati doesn't just leave him hanging, she gives him a roadmap. But let me tell you, it is not the easy Gandharva path he wanted. Step 1, wait for the right opportunity. Step 2, officially ask her father Aditya for permission. Step 3, offer worship and take vows. And Step 4, perform ascetic penances. This love-struck king, who literally just fainted from impatience, is now being told he must undergo severe spiritual discipline and penance just to get an audience with her dad. If her father bestows her, only then will she be his obedient wife. Which leaves us with a monumental cliffhanger. We've seen the king's overwhelming, fainting spell level of desire, and we've seen Tapati's unbending devotion to her duty. The lines are clearly drawn. But will a mortal king's earthly passion and ascetic penance actually be enough to win the favor of the sun god himself? Can Kama truly conquer the cosmos? It's a daunting challenge for our love-struck king, and it leaves us wondering just how far a mortal can go when driven by the arrows of desire. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the stories that shape our world.